All right, we're going to do a little exercise here. I want you to take a moment, take a few breaths, relax, and think about the very first video game you ever played. You got it? Okay, good. The very first video game that I ever played was Doom. And I can remember it very clearly. I couldn't have been more than maybe 4 or 5 years old at the time. And I went downstairs into the basement of my grandparents' house, into the little study, and my uncle was playing on this big, old, clunky computer. You know how computers are now. They're slim, they're sleek, they're sexy. This thing was none of those. It was this old, grungy, brown, beige box with a huge dome black screen and these crinkly, giant, clunky keyboard keys and a mouse that looked like a brick with a wire coming out of it. Jeez, just thinking back on that thing, how much they've changed. But there he was, sitting down on the computer, and at first I thought he was watching a movie because I saw something moving on the screen. I didn't quite know what it was. I hadn't really seen video games at the time. And I wandered in and just sort of stood there and watched him for a bit, and he said, "Oh, do you want to play this?" And I'm just like, "Well, what is it?" And he's like, "Oh, this is a video game." And I know what you're thinking nowadays, a little kid playing Doom, especially with the new Doom that came out. That's kind of like, whoa, no, never. And I mean, I guess from perspective, it is kind of the same thing back then as it is now. At least to say that, those graphics were as good as they were, or they were the best at the time. So, I don't know, maybe the sight of that sort of gore and violence could be equivalent to how good the graphics are in the most recent version. But you get what I'm saying. It's not a typical first game you would use to introduce a child to video gaming. But looking back on it, I wasn't scared, I wasn't horrified, I wasn't having nightmares about being chased by imps throwing fireballs at me for the next few months. Nothing like that. I looked at it and I just kind of thought, what is this thing? And so he sat me on his knee and he said, "Okay, here's what's going to happen. You have to use these keys to move around. This lets you go left and right. And if you push this big long bar here, that's going to make you jump. And then you hit this button to open doors. Okay, so here's what you're going to do. You're going to move around and I'm going to use the mouse." So basically the way we worked it out, we made a cooperative multiplayer game out of a single player experience, which was a lot of fun. It's a very fond memory of mine. So I was controlling where we were running and walking and jumping and what doors we were going through. And I got to say my uncle had the rougher job. He had to compensate for where I was moving and try his best to time shots for enemies. And eventually we worked it out where it's okay, face them for half a second so I can get a shot off, then keep moving, because beyond that it was just he was very patient. I have to say that much, because I know if it were me trying to do the same, if I had to go back in time and do the same thing with a younger version of myself, I probably would have gotten frustrated and just been okay, you know what, just go downstairs and watch Beast Wars, okay? Enough. I can't do this. But he was very patient, and it became a semi-regular thing where if he was playing Doom, I would either sit there and watch him, or we'd play the game together. And it was a real good introduction to video gaming for me. It got me interested. It showed me just how immersive gaming could be. And mind you, this was stuff that went right over my head at the time. Of course, like I said, a 5-year-old kid isn't going to look at a video game and go, "My God, this is a graphically beautiful, immersive experience." Nothing like that. But the very basic concepts and the joy of playing a video game really had its infancy in that moment. And I can remember afterwards on the very same computer playing, the old Lion King game, which is a game that you should, oddly enough, never subject a kid to. It was ridiculously difficult. I would rather sit a kid down and have them play Ultimate Doom than to have them sit down and play that Lion King game, because I don't think I ever got past the level where you had to swing off of hippos and ride an ostrich, and You had to properly coordinate monkeys to fling you across the level, and it was insanely difficult for a game that was tailor-made for kids. It was The Lion King, a tie-in with a Disney movie. Of course it's going to be made for kids. Doom, a game that is, I think it was rated M at the time then, not meant for kids, but way easier to jump into and beat. Because I remember beating Doom, again, with the help of my uncle, never beat The Lion King. To this day, I never got past that level, but we went through Doom 1, Doom 2. I think he picked up Ultimate Doom, which I think Ultimate Doom was a separate game. Yeah, it was like a pack with the 3 games in it. And this is dating it a bit, but if I remember correctly, the games came on a floppy disk. I'm pretty sure, yeah, they definitely came on a floppy disk. And we also had The Lion King on floppy disk. And I want to say we also had a Donkey Kong game for the PC. This is old computing. I'm talking like Windows 90. What was it running? Windows 95? Maybe 94? Man, it was old. I kind of want to go through storage and see if we still have that computer kicking around somewhere. But that was the very first game I ever played. And talking about it, honestly, I want to go back and play Doom right now. I'd like to play the new Doom as well, and I will get around to that too, because that is a beautiful game. Gory as hell, but I mean, that's half the fun. And I like, at least from what friends have told me, they've kept the essence of keep moving or you die alive and well within that game. Although I think I might be the only one out of my social circle that's going to try the hardest difficulty, because especially with id games, I love going on the hardest difficulty. It's frustrating, but man, when you beat it, so satisfying. Anyway, I'm rambling here, so that's episode 2 of Thoughts on Gaming. And you know what, actually, I want to hear what you guys have to say. What is your favorite memory of the first video game you ever played? And what was the first video game you ever played? If you guys feel like sharing, feel free to voice your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know what you think of the series so far. If you have any ideas for future episodes, comments, critiques, we'll take it all. Until next time, this is Rye. Take care.